So it's just you and I.
Okay.
And hopefully Vicki made it back on her chair after Randy's levels were a little loud there.
Just a bit. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
How are you doing this morning?
We're doing great.
Great.
The issue that we had earlier today, we talked about some of the things being said by the governor's office. And when you look at what's going on with the governor's office and the lieutenant governor, some of the things coming out of that really looks like it's weird. Are you there, Randy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I'm picking up a lot of side noise.
From my end?
Yeah.
Try and move a little bit here.
Yep.
How about this? Better?
That's better. Could you get a little closer to your mic?
Oh, okay. All right. How's that?
That is nice. There we go.
All right. There we go.
Especially when you listen to the podcast, you're going to listen to the podcast and go, "How come I sound so?"
Low.
There you go. That's better. So, what are you hearing down in the Detroit area? What's coming up down there as far as this whole thing with, who's aligning with who and where money's coming from? And I think the thing that really got a lot of people upset is that, well, part of the payback with the unions joining in on Proposal 6 is that now all of a sudden the Maroons are going to kick in some money and try to help the unions on Proposal 2. And I do not see where that's the truth. And we had Mickey Blashfield on earlier who said, and as well as an email from him that said, no, that's not true. Don't know where that rumor came from, but that's just misinformation.
Well, I can tell you, Greg, I was on my way home from a funeral in Dearborn yesterday, coming down 75, listening to 9:50 a.m. I believe it's WWJ, News Radio.
Yep.
And I was
all news
shocked.
all the time.
I was stunned when I heard their news. It was talking about exactly what you just said, where the Ambassador Bridge is going to help out on Proposal 2 for the unions helping out on 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had Tim Skubik out of Lansing from Off the Record come on the radio and pretty much confirmed that and said that was a very unlikely alliance if it was in fact true. But nevertheless, they said that. And then I had a conservative friend of mine who just happens to be a forced UAW member, dropped off a letter that he got in the mail from the UAW on how they want you to vote on all the ballot issues. And it's exact opposite of the grassroots conservatives and, those of us, we say one on yes, and then no, 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 and then yes, yes, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And theirs is the exact opposite. And then I noticed on Facebook there was this liberal organization with Democrats and unions and the who's who of the business community. They're all saying, "Don't vote vote yes on 2, don't vote no." And then there was listed. They listed all the entities, and on the first 2 on the list was Governor Snyder and Senate Majority Leader Randy Richardson. Yeah, I found that to be interesting.
But, wow.
So, who knows what's going on here? I mean, it's the games are being played. In my view, the puke's being spewed out through the media, and it just adds to the confusion. I don't see 2 being a good thing.
No, and I just had a story I read earlier where, there's going to be serious consequences beyond our borders with some of these proposals, because if it affects our credit rating, if 2 passes, not only is it going to affect our budget in what we've done in the last couple of years to not only get a budget out but get it to balance, go from a deficit to a surplus, which is what has happened in Lansing. Now all of a sudden, if you take and you have to undo some of that, where are these cuts going to come from? And now all of a sudden, where's the next group of battles going to come from? And then how is that going to affect our credit rating with just that one? Not to mention the emergency manager laws and our ability to handle those emergencies. Is that going to affect our credit rating? There's 3 proposals or 3 ballot proposals out there that will affect our credit rating, either for the good or for the bad.
Absolutely. I would like to point out, though, that as far as the state of Michigan having a budget surplus that we've been hearing out of Lansing. They may have balanced the budget, but no way, shape, or form do we have a surplus. And the reason I say that is because we owed the U.S. Treasury Department $3.3 billion for the Unemployment Trust Fund. Or 3.2, I'm sorry. We borrowed $3.3 billion as to pay that off. Now, if my math serves me correctly, that's $0.1 billion more we borrowed to pay off our debt, so we're that much more farther in debt.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the general accounting principles that's caused problems in the state of New York and the city of New York. And it's just fuzzy math. It's just a shell game. So in that respect, as far as the bridge, I dug up some interesting information through past legislation where the Mackinac Bridge Authority owed the state of Michigan, which is we the taxpayers, money that was lent to them, and they forgave it. It was a 2003 House bill. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but it was a 2003 House bill, and that money come from the Michigan, the MTF, Michigan Transportation Fund, and also from the Motor Fuel Tax Fund. So that's a problem. I see that as a problem. How can you? I wish I could get some of my debt forgiven. You know.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of issues and a lot of information that a lot of people might not be willing to dig that deep or to read and research and see that this same thing. I mean, the Mackinac Bridge Authority was created in 1952. So it took all them years till 2003 before they forgave this money, the taxpayer money that they owed to the state.
And how much was that number again?
There was two numbers. Let me see if I can find it real quick here.
You know, if you had it, I was just going to write it down for future reference.
Right.
Because I think it's a good point.
Yes,
yeah, especially
absolutely.
since you're looking at it at a number amount that went back 50 years.
Right.
What would that number be in today's dollars?
Correct. It was a memorandum on June 30th of 2003. The House Committee on Transportation. This was from the House Fiscal Agency. And it was House Bill 4627 would amend Section 7 of the 1952 Public Act 214 that created the Mackinac Bridge Authority's authorizing statute. And it says to forgive certain advances made by the state of Michigan to the Mackinac Bridge Authority. As of September 30th, 2002, there remained a balance of 12,306,172 advance from the State Trunkline Fund and 53,250,000 advance from the Michigan let me move my cursor here.
So that's about 60.
Transportation Fund, that's the MTF. Subsection 5 indicates that the advance made by the state under the authority of the Motor Fuel Tax Acts from the MTF are repaid or forgiven effective March 1st, 2003. So my point being, it goes on.
Well, that's $65 million right there.
Absolutely. And what I'm saying here is if they can do this all these years after the fact when the Mackinac Bridge Authority was created, they can do the same thing with Senator Richardville's second bill, 410, authorized the bridge, 411 in 2011, authorized the authority to run that bridge. And in that legislation, they want to amend Act 51 as to fund this authority. And to me, this is the excuse that all the legislators throw out there about our roads. Well, it's Act 51. Our hands are tied. Yeah, but they can untie their hands to get something they want that is not necessarily a benefit to the taxpayers of Michigan.
Well, we've seen that in this whole bridge fiasco.
Absolutely. And if you look at what happened in 1991, between 1991 and 2010 with the Blue Water Bridge, okay, they wanted to build this second span, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they said that it warranted because traffic increase would have been 74% during the next 20 years in order to justify the need for the additional $41.3 million. In reality, traffic actually decreased by 21% during those 20 years. So, all this stuff that's coming out, and they even had another problem with that. The federal government, which I don't care if it's state or federal tax dollars, it's still our tax dollars. That's we the taxpayers.
Yeah.
Okay. The federal government was forced to spend another $400 million in taxpayer dollars to pay for a new plaza for the Blue Water Bridge that the feds had engineered poorly, with the possibility of cost overruns, such as these examples that I'm mentioning. plus the fact that toll revenues will not nearly be enough to pay the cost, we must be screaming no for this. No new bridge. And even on Canada's side, they have already stated that the builders are going to get paid first. So with that being said, there's no way. I mean, tolls aren't enough by themselves, but if you pay the builders first, which, by the way, is temporary jobs, they keep touting jobs, but those are temporary jobs. Once the build's bridge, them jobs are gone, and all that's left is toll takers. I believe toll takers is a 4-year degree from the University of Michigan. I mean, come on. It's Canada wants this bridge. I live down here 9 miles from the Toledo line.
Actually, go back to that U of M joke that you put. There is such a degree for toll takers.
No.
It's called liberal studies. It takes about 4 to 4.5 years to get at University of Michigan, at the cost to you and your parents at about $120,000. Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you that Canada wants this bridge more than we do, because if you go on I-75 from Ohio and enter Michigan and just drive up to the Monroe County line going into Wayne County, count the license plates on all the semi-trucks. They're all Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
It's 99% of the plates are Ontario. So, yeah, no wonder they want it. And I also propose this. If this new bridge does get built, now the main reason that Canada says they don't want Mr. Maroon to build his second span next is because of Huron Church and all the traffic problems. Okay, if this new bridge gets built, don't you think for 1 minute that they're going to put up roadblocks to make it so tough to use, Marty's private bridge, or Matty, whatever his name is, and it'll just, and if they do that, then pretty soon he'll have to shut it down because it won't be a profitable business.
Yeah, do you remember how it seemed like for 25 years there was always construction at the Michigan border at Toledo?
Right.
That would be the same thing. There would be so much construction. They would want to improve every single road around that bridge at the same time. Right. There would be detours on both sides of the bridge saying, detour for road work.
Well, I don't know if you remember when the legislature shot that down in committee, and at the last minute, just prior to the vote, Senator Richardville had his Democratic buddy Tupac Hunter slip in a substitute bill where we, the taxpayers, would have to pay for the uprooting of the citizens and the uprooting of businesses, which wasn't in the original bill. Now, so that's another burden to us, the taxpayers.
Yep. And we keep hearing from both the governor and from the lieutenant governor that this will not cost the Michigan taxpayers one dime.
Yeah, 1 red cent, that's just not.
And even if you take a look at the $1.6 billion or some number like that, $1.2 billion, that is going to be federal matching funds, even if you look at it from a 1/50th share, we would still be contributing to those federal dollars, not to mention that all that $1 billion could go to actually fix our roads across the state of Michigan. So it's a scam, I think, that's being perpetrated by the governor's office on this. Definitely something that I think that we agree this is bad for Michigan.
Well, it's the same thing what our legislators are doing. It's a shame our elected officials do not hear our voices, because what's happening here by circumventing and going around the legislature to try and get this bridge built. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's no different than what they're doing with right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you agree or disagree. It was the people's say. It was their vote about the medical marijuana. They're doing everything under the sun to try and hammer this thing. And now they're up there, and Richardville made a slip of the tongue to the Associated Press, where they're already up there right now, wasting our tax dollars and time on trying to circumvent if, right, wrong, or indifferent again, if the emergency manager doesn't go through.
Yep.
I mean, that's what the vote of the people's all about, not to try and backdoor them and smack them in the face and say your vote really don't count. We're going to go,
Great point to end on. Late for a break, final segment coming up. Randy Bain, thanks for joining us on the program today. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Greg. Have a great day.
Thank you.